For the first year or two of my fishing journey, I almost never threw crankbaits. I didn't know how to throw them. I didn't know what they were good for, and I was scared of getting the hooks caught in my hand. And when I did try to throw them, I always seemed to get them caught on grass, stumps, rocks, or sticks under the water. So I was really frustrated and I gave up. And I would turn to something else that I had more confidence in. And as a result, I just didn't catch as many fish. But last year, I decided that I was going to give crankbaits more of a try. And I'm glad that I did, because I started to figure them out. And I caught fish in a pond. I caught fish on a lake during the spawn. And I really started having fun when I figured out how to use crankbaits in creeks and rivers. So because I spent more time learning how to use crankbaits last year, I was able to catch a lot more fish and have a lot more success and have a lot more fun on the water. So I want to share with you a few things that I've learned over the last year throwing crankbaits so that you too can have more success and catch more fish. So I'm going to give you all the basics of crankbaits, be Crankbait 101. If you're new to crankbaits and I don't cover something in this video, leave your question in the comments below. And if you're a crankbait pro and there's something that I missed, leave that comment below too, or share your best crankbait tips so that we can help each other catch more fish.
So what is a crankbait? A crankbait is any hard lure designed to imitate a bait fish or crayfish and draw strikes as it is cranked or reeled back to you below the surface of the water. These right here are crankbaits. These are not crankbaits. Now they look very similar. They seem to have a similar style of body, but let me show you the difference. So this one is a jerkbait. It's not designed to be reeled constantly like a crankbait is. It's designed to be jerked, a series of jerks, and when you jerk it, it dives under the water, and some stay there, some float back up. This one's not a crankbait. This one is a jerkbait. So we'll get it out of the way. These two are also not crankbaits. These are topwater baits. So these are designed to stay on top of the water. This one is a plopper style. It has this propeller that pulls water. As it's reeled back, this will spin and make a disturbance on the top of the water and draw strikes. It's not a crankbait because it's designed to be on the top, not under the water. This one is a popper. This lip here is designed to catch water as you jerk it forward. It stays on top of the water and draws strikes by that popping of the water. Not a crankbait because it's designed to stay on top of the water and also not to be reeled constantly. These, however, are all crankbaits of one kind or another. They are all designed to be reeled, and they draw strikes as they reel. They have a certain vibrating motion in the water as they're reeled, and they draw strikes that way. Now, there are three main types of crankbaits. This is the standard crankbait. These are the most common types, and they have the most variety of designs and uses. The distinctive feature of the standard crankbait is this bill is rounded off. It has no straight corners or edges, it's just rounded off. And the length of the bill, how long this plastic bill is, determines how deep it dives. The shorter bills will go about 2 to 4 feet, and the longer bills can dive, like this one, can dive as far as 30 feet down in the water. They float. Now these standard ones, they float unless you're reeling them back. So if you stop reeling, it's going to float up to the top. If you start reeling, it's going to pull from here where this loop is, and it's going to do this under the water, and this bill is going to pull it down deeper to the depth that it's designed to go. The second type is the square bill. Now you'll notice that it's different, and it's called a square bill because the bill is squared off instead of rounded like the standard. These square bill crankbaits run shallower than the standard, and they're designed to be run through and bounce off cover to draw strikes as they bounce off cover, like down trees, near the bank, those types of things. And most of these will go anywhere from 1 to 4, maybe 6 feet deep is kind of the typical for a square bill. And the last type of crankbait is a lipless crankbait. Now, some people will make these a completely different category, but I think by our definition, they are still crankbaits. Now, what makes these different, obviously, is they don't have the bill. They are lipless crankbaits. And because of that, they're designed differently than the other ones. Lipless crankbaits actually sink on their own, unlike the standard and the square bill, which float. The lipless crankbaits sink, and you can control the depth by your retrieve. So if you stop retrieving, it will sink. If you retrieve fast, it will run higher. And if you slow down, it will run deeper. And these are also called, some people call them rattle traps, because they have rattles inside of them, and those rattles are designed to attract the fish. Now, there are different materials that crankbaits are made out of. I'm not going to get into what makes them different in this video, because that would be a more advanced video, but basically the normal crankbait is just made out of plastic. This one's a plastic crankbait. That's plastic, and the bill is plastic. And then this one is a balsa wood crankbait. It's actually made out of wood. So how do you fish a crankbait? The standard crankbait, you want it up against some sort of structure or cover. So that could be the bottom of the body of water that you're fishing. That could be ticking along the top of grass, which takes some practice to figure out how to get the depth right so that it's not in the grass, but it's just right above the grass. Or bouncing off rocks. Anything that's in the water that could be hiding fish, you want this to be rubbing up against it very, very close, or bouncing off against it. So that's where you want to throw the standard. And then you want to retrieve it. Usually just a steady retrieve is fine. You'll be able to feel the vibration when it's bouncing on the bottom or when it hits a rock or something like that. Once you get used to the retrieve, you'll be able to feel that. And you can also pause it and let it float up and then start it again. And sometimes that will draw a strike as well. The square bill is designed much the same way, and I don't understand it fully, but the way that this bill is designed, it's supposed to come out of wood cover better, and I've seen it happen. It does. I don't know why, but it does. And so you pull this through trees or brush in the water, and this will bounce off, and that's how you draw strikes. You just want to make sure that this one's in shallow water, because the bill is not going to dive as deep. So don't throw this in the middle of the lake. Throw this where it's shallow and it's actually going to be hitting the bottom or hitting brush or hitting structure or something like that. Now the lipless, you can throw these just about anywhere. They're super versatile, which makes them handy. Because they don't float, they sink, you can control the depth very easily. You can make the same lipless crankbait go 2 feet or 20 feet with the same thing, whereas these you would have to switch out. This one would go 20-25 feet, this one's going to go 4 to 8 feet, and this one's going to go 2 to 4 feet. You can do all that with one lipless crankbait, which makes these very handy, very versatile. And if you're in more stained water where there's less visibility, that rattle will draw strikes when these may not draw as many strikes. And with the lipless crankbait, you can do a straight retrieve, slow or fast, depending on how deep you want it to be. But you can also, and this is especially good in the winter, you can also just let these fall and sort of yo-yo them off the bottom. So you would let it fall to the bottom, raise your rod tip up, and let it kind of bounce off the bottom. And that will draw strikes in the winter when the bass are deeper and a little bit more lethargic. Now, let's talk about colors. When do you throw what color? Basically, in the springtime, you want to throw something red. I don't know why, but the bass love red things in the spring. think it has something to do with the color of the crawfish that these things imitate. But in the spring, they love it. Now, if the water is clear or calm, so in other words, you can see really far through the water, there's not a lot of wind and stuff floating in the water, you want to stick with more natural colors, things that look like the bait fish that are swimming in that lake. If the water is darker, stained, muddy, and there's a lot of wind, you're going to want to go with something that is either darker, like a black, sort of, this isn't a crankbait, but something like this color. Red works well in stained water too, or something that is bright. So something like this would work well in stained water as well. And if the water's stained, the rattles can also come in handy. Now, how deep do you want to go? How do you decide if you want to go 25 feet deep or if you want to go 6 to 8 feet deep? Well, a lot of that depends on the time of year. So in the spring and the fall, you're going to want to go shallower, because the fish will be up shallower in the spring. They're going to be up shallow bedding, spawning. And in the fall, they're going to be up shallow chasing bait fish to feed up for the winter. But in the summer and in the winter, they generally are going to be deeper because they want to stay away from the extreme temperatures, and the water in the bottom of the lake or pond or whatever body of water you're fishing is going to be more temperate, more moderate for them. So you're going to want to go with something deeper in the summer and winter.
Okay, so what rod and reel do you want to use when you're throwing crankbaits? I have two main rods that I use, and the first one is a Fenwick HMG. It's 7'2", medium, moderate fast. And the main thing in that is moderate fast. You want something that the tip is going to have a good bit of bend down further on the rod blank. Gives some more flexibility, which you want with these treble hooks. If your rod is too stiff, then it's easier for tension to be released too easily, and that will allow the fish to throw your hook, and then you'll lose the fish and not get it back to the boat. So this one, I use the 7'2" Fenwick. I use for bigger crankbaits, or well, normal crankbaits, I would say. Normal size crankbaits, and I don't do a lot of deep cranking, but if I do, this would be the rod I would use because it's the best one that I have for that. The other one that I use is the Shimano Curado. This one is actually a 6'10", and it's light, and it's a glass rod actually, and it has that moderate bend as well. And I use this one because it's light. It's rated for throwing smaller things, and I have 8-pound fluorocarbon on this one, and I will use this to throw smaller crankbaits, especially like a rebel crawl. This Fenwick rod I have 10-pound fluorocarbon on, so this is for just normal crankbaits, and then the Shimano Curado for lighter crankbaits I have 8-pound fluorocarbon on. And you want to use fluorocarbon because fluorocarbon sinks and it has decent stretch, whereas braid, you don't want to use braid because it doesn't have stretch. So you want to use fluorocarbon if you're throwing crankbaits. For the knot on crankbaits, I just tie a Palomar knot. It doesn't really matter that much to me. I just want something strong and easy to tie, so I just use a Palomar knot. Now for the last tip that you waited for, how do you keep from getting those hooks in your hand? Well, the best tip I have, use a net. Because if you use the net to scoop down and grab the fish, you're gonna have a whole lot less of a chance of getting a hook in your hand than you did if you were trying to reach from your kayak or boat into the water to grab the lip of the fish where the hooks are, and then you miss or he shakes, and now you have treble hooks in your hand and that are also attached to a fish who's still shaking, and it's a mess. It's not fun. Now on your net, get one that has this kind of rubber mesh here. Do not get one that's just this cloth mesh that has all these teeny tiny holes, because I tell you, the hooks will get caught in this mesh every single time, and it will be an absolute pain in the backside. After every fish you catch, you will spend a lot of time getting the hooks out of this, I promise. So I asked for this rubber net for Christmas. My dad got it for me for Christmas, so I'm excited to use this one and spend less time getting hooks out of my net after I catch fish on crankbait. Now, if you don't have any crankbaits and you want to get started and you're not sure where to start, I would recommend just starting with these KVD 3XD. They're cheap, they're readily available just about anywhere. I'll leave some affiliate links down below to these if you want to pick them up too. That'll help me out, which I'd appreciate. These will be good for a lot of situations when you don't have to go super deep. They're pretty versatile and they're cheap and pretty durable. And when you're just learning them, you'll probably get them caught and lost, and it doesn't hurt too bad when you lose these. The other one I would recommend, especially if you're in a creek or on a river, is these Rebel Craw lures. I'll leave a link to this one in the description too. But these are excellent. They go very shallow, but anywhere on a creek or river that you see rocks, just tie one of these on, throw it, make sure that it's being against the rocks, and probably catch some bass with that. So that's Crankbait 101. Let me know what I missed. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Or if you are a crankbait expert, I don't claim to be one, but if you are, then leave your tips down below and share them with others so that we can all catch more fish. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to like it so that it can reach more people, and subscribe to the channel so that you can see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.